Hi, everybody, and welcome back to another edition of the Beyond the Cage podcast presented by Fight Chicks. On this week's live episode, Dave and I will have 5 rounds for you. Inside of round number 1, of course, we will go over headlines as usual. In round number 2, we will break down the main card from UFC Fight Night 43. In round number 3, we're going to break down the main card for UFC Fight Night 44. In round number 4, we're going to talk about the Ultimate Fighter 19 and its upcoming finale this Sunday. And in round number 5, we're going to pick the main card fights for UFC 175 from Las Vegas, Nevada, this Saturday on pay-per-view. I'm your host, Jim Graham. Alongside me is my co-host, The Juice, Dave Sadler. And Dave, how's it going?
24 hours from now, I'll be in Las Vegas, Nevada. So, I'm excited, to say the least. Flight leaves early tomorrow morning, ready to get into town and partake in all the activities they've got going on. I believe tomorrow there's a press conference that we should be able to hit up. Weigh-ins Friday, expos Saturday, Sunday, fight Saturday, Sunday. Let's do it.
And, of course, let's start with round number 1, brought to you by our friends at VigilanteMMA.com. You can follow them on Twitter at VigilanteMMA. And, Dave, just a rebuttal. It is very cool you're going to the Fan Expo and both fights this weekend. I know you were planning just going to the Expo and probably one of the fights, and lo and behold, now there's 2 fights that weekend. It's like I added a bonus for you. You were like, well, one fight's good, but, now I get 2. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's like a bonus. It's like normally you just get to hear our great voices, but now you get to hear our great voices and see our beautiful faces.
That is absolutely correct. It's like the same thing, just a great bonus for you in the face.
And it didn't even cost you $59.99. How about that?
No, it did not. No, this is absolutely free.
Actually, Jim, if we're gonna talk about bonuses, we should hold on. Jim, stall for time.
Oh boy, I'm very good at that. All right, well, we're gonna tackle.
Look, here's a bonus.
Oh boy.
Oh boy. All right, hold on.
It's America's birthday coming up.
It is. Hold on. Wait for it. Wait for it. Oh. All right. Enough of the shenanigans, Jim.
All right. Well.
Wait. I got one more terrible joke. Hold on.
All right.
Jim, I'm ready to dive into the headlines. All right, let's go. Enough of the. All right.
Well, let's start off first with I guess it would be the biggest headline, and that's the fact that Chael Sonnen has not failed 1, but now 2 drug tests while he was trying to fight Vitor Belfort instead of Vanderlei Silva, who, of course, by default failed a drug test by not taking one in the eyes of the Nevada Athletic Commission. So his fight against Vitor Belfort obviously will not happen. Not only that, with this second failed drug test, Dave, the UFC/Fox has cut all ties with Chael Sonnen as an analyst on their various networks and TV shows and all that with this failed drug test. And I'm going to be honest, I am surprised that he's no longer an analyst. Did he fail a drug test? I guess did he fail 2 drug tests? Yes. Has he failed some before? Have others failed some before? Yes and yes. But I thought Chael Sonnen was great at being an analyst and probably the best former fighter turn analyst that they have. And it's kind of a shame that he's going to no longer be able to do that, at least for Fox. Now, if I was like ESPN or Spike TV or one of these other Access TV, one of these other networks that show MMA or kind of cover it, I would scoop up Chael Sonnen as soon as I can. This guy, I think, is great on the mic. He knows the sport. And the biggest thing, Dave, I don't see how a failed drug test affects his ability to commentate on the sport, a sport where he has made it to the highest level.
Jim, do you think that the fact that which do you think happened first? The UFC saying they want to cut ties with Chael Sonnen, or the Fox family saying that they want to cut ties? because they released a joint statement together, and I really feel like it was Fox doesn't want that kind of bad press, maybe. And then the UFC was like, well, you guys gave us, billions of dollars. We're going to have to agree with you. Do you think it was Fox's call more so than the UFC's, or vice versa?
I don't know. It's an interesting situation. I guess maybe Fox, but for Fox, I mean, they got a lot of analysts and stuff, so I'm sure they don't think it's that big a deal. It probably means something to the UFC, I guess, to cut ties with them. But I don't know. He already had retired from the sport. The second failed drug test, to me, is not that big a deal because the fight wasn't going to happen anyway with the first one. The second one, I don't know. I feel like if they weren't going to fire him or get rid of him with the first one, I'm not sure why the second one makes much difference, to be quite honest with you. And like I said, whether he takes any type of extra stuff, it doesn't affect his ability to be a great TV broadcaster. And
if you're Scott Coker, the new president of Bellator, that'd be a huge splash. Signing Chael Sonnen to be a part of your broadcast for Bellator would be a much bigger splash than signing Chet Congo and any other people leaving the UFC. I think you gain more viewership just to see what he says. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like, if you're Bellator, World Series of Fighting, ESPN, Access TV, if you're one of these other shows that have MMA programming or, MMA pop up on SportsCenter, I guess if you're the case of ESPN, why wouldn't you want this guy on your network? He's a very polarizing guy. He can be a funny guy. He knows the sport. He can be controversial at times. He's a great guy for TV, or you want to look at, like, sports radio. He's perfect for that. Like, he's really good at talking. He's talked his way into basically 2 title shots. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, like, this guy knows how to talk. He knows how to sell things. And I don't know. I mean, could he come back to Fox? I guess it's possible. I mean, heck, you remember, the famous shock jock there, Don Imus. He said a couple of things over the years, and he's gotten fired and then rehired. It's because people want to listen to what he says. You said exactly right, Dave. Just having him on, I think, helps your ratings. I don't see how it could really hurt.
Yeah. My guess, I'll give you my final thought. I think he's on Bellator to open up the fall season.
I mean, that would be a good move. I mean, even if he's not like on the broadcast with Sean and Jimmy, but if he's doing something where they like throw it back to him, or I don't know, hell, even if they just have a 5-minute thing where he just talks about the fights and they throw it in the broadcast or something. I don't know. He can do something. Maybe Bellator changes up and does have like a studio type thing or something. I mean, yeah, if you can sign him, because right now you might be able to get him maybe cheaper than he was before all this stuff. So,
yep.
I think it's a good decision by one of those companies if they bring him up. So, unfortunately for Chael Sonnen, he won't be on TV, but who will be on TV is World Series of Fighting 11. And they will be on this Saturday, July 5th. Of course, we already talked to Cody Bollinger last week, who will be on the main card fighting Pablo Alfonso. The main event of the card is Justin Gaethje against Nick Newell for the World Series of Fighting lightweight title. And looking over some of the other main card fights, you got John Fitch against Dennis Hallman. Melvin Gillard will take on Jay-Z Cavalcante. And I think they're going to try to get the TJ O'Brien and Luis Palomino fight in on the main card as well. And that's going to be over in Daytona Beach, Florida. And if I'm not mistaken, Dave, is this going to be the first World Series of Fighting on actual NBC? Or am I wrong on that? Or is it just still on NBC Sports?
Stall for time, and I will effort to find that out. I'm going to continue to look while I talk, Jim, so forgive me for not looking at you. What I'm wondering is... I'm not wondering, sorry. This is going to be a good card. The unfortunate thing is it's on Saturday. We've talked about it before. You're doing a severe injustice to the fighters on this card. There's a lot of MMA going on this weekend. There's a lot of There's going to be a lot of family things, outdoor barbecues, fireworks shows, the whole 9 yards. And as much as people should tune in to the World Series of Fighting, I don't think very many people will because look, I like everybody who's on the card as much as you, but if I could watch Lyoto Machida, Ronda Rousey, Chris Weidman, Alexis Davis, I'd rather watch that than John Fitch and Dennis Hallman. Um, I think they would have done themselves much better had they had the show next week or last week.
Yeah, I think you're correct, and maybe poor planning there by World Series of Fighting. Could have picked a more opportune time. A lot of stuff going on this weekend. Definitely probably could have had it last weekend or next weekend, and probably would have maybe drew some better ratings. But
It is on NBC.
It is on NBC. So yeah, is that going to garner maybe a little more than if it was on NBC Sports at the same time slot on the same weekend? I would think so. I mean, I would highly doubt it would get any lower than what they've been getting on NBC Sports, but it is an interesting weekend to kick it off. And you also have the fact that this fight could even be bigger because I guess Husamar Polares turned down a chance to be on this card, Dave. And they would have had 2 title fights.
I think that's Fitch's division, right?
Yeah, that would be in the welterweight division. Yep.
Yeah, he had to pull out. I guess his mom is very ill, and he's the one who takes care of her. So that's why he pulled out of this fight. But yeah, that definitely would have added that would have put more name recognition on the card. But if you're an MMA fan and you look at this card, it's a good card, Jim. It really is.
No, it is. It is a good card, and like I said, it's just the same that it's kind of going to get lost in the shuffle a little bit, and hopefully, I wouldn't be surprised. If they do DVR numbers or anything, or day 7, like they show how many times it's been watched, like on demand or DVR afterwards. I bet those numbers might be better than the actual broadcast numbers because a lot of people are going to be focused on 175, and like you said, doing a whole bunch of other stuff. So I wouldn't be surprised if this gets heavily DVR'd by fight fans.
Much like Beyond the Cage Google Hangouts. They're there if you want them right now, but you can always go back and watch them at your convenience.
That is true, and of course, like we said, we got to talk to Cody Bollinger, who will be fighting on the main card against Pablo Alfonso. His interview is still available on the normal, Stitcher platforms and whatnot, and it will also be available on YouTube. So 2 ways to listen to that interview again, just in case you missed it on last week's show. And Cody does a great job of going into his time on The Ultimate Fighter, about his status with World Series of Fighting, kind of the title picture in the bantamweight division, and of course his fight against Pablo Alfonso. So we had fun talking with him last week, and look forward to seeing him this week on World Series of Fighting 11.
Hey, Jim. You mentioned the bantamweight division, and since this is a live show, we can pretty much fly by the seat of my pants. So I'm at work the last couple days. We've been very slow, so I've had my trusty laptop there, and I've been using my Fight Pass, my UFC Fight Pass. We can actually parlay this into the Fight Pass card that just happened. But when you said bantamweight, you reminded me. I watched Eddie Wineland versus Ken Stone last night. Do you remember that fight? With the slam?
Yes.
Yes. I'd heard about it, and I've been going back through the fights, and I finally made it up to WEC 53, and I literally jumped out of my seat in the cafeteria. If you guys haven't seen it, he's got him picked up against the cage, and he slams him down. I don't know. You said bantamweight, it got me thinking, but I love my Fight Pass.
Well, Dave, before we get to that Fight Fast fight, I want to talk real quickly. This kind of sparked some controversy, and it's about GSP, and that is the fact that he was involved in signing kind of like a witness statement / testimony kind of affidavit type deal for who apparently it's a friend of his that he knows through mixed martial arts, but I guess this guy, his regular day job is being a drug dealer. That's his regular job. And GSP, through this affidavit that somehow got out in the public, It was saying that he was showing support, I guess, for this drug dealer, but a later letter by GSP to the fans and media alike stated that he was trying to get his friend Jimmy into a Canadian prison to be tried in Canada, where he is a citizen, and not in the U.S., where some of these other crimes were there, so that way his family has a better chance to visit him while he was in jail. So did GSP know this guy was involved with drugs? I would think so. I find it very hard to believe that you know someone, it seems like for a good period of time, to not know that. So that is interesting. But at the same time, GSP has never been caught with drugs. He's never been associated with any type of narcotics like that. So if he's a friend of him, I guess so what? You can't always be in charge of what your friends do, and I guess for GSP, at least he didn't get caught up in this mess in terms of actually being sentenced or anything, and I'm kind of surprised at some of the reactions to people, and sometimes people are really good. I mean, if you're a highly successful drug dealer, some people can hide that, so I can't put all the blame on GSP, but it is a little interesting, but I'm not going to come down hard on the guy.
Yeah, a couple of things. I don't understand why it's really news. I mean, how about the manager of the Diaz brothers? Doesn't he associate with known drug users on a daily basis? I mean, I know that marijuana is legal in California if you have the right cards and stuff, but Nick Diaz is always talking about how he uses it. GSP's not even in the UFC currently. He's not fighting. He's not training for a fight. He's not doing any of that. To me, if you're GSP's handlers, how many pieces of fan mail and requests do you think that he gets on a daily basis? Hey, write a letter to my son, he's going to be 8. Happy birthday, Frank. Love GSP or whatever. You know what I mean? Does he really know this guy? Are they really good friends? I can't answer that question for you, Jim. Or was it simply something that just came across his desk, and now he's kind of backtracking so that it doesn't turn into a big wildfire? I don't know. I don't see the newsworthiness of it. I didn't know the drug dealer before. I don't know him now. I don't really care what happens to the drug dealer. But, to me, I think this is kind of him trying to save face ahead of a storm that may come.
And I guess I would hate to say drugs are like a lesser thing, but if the guy, I guess, was a convicted murderer and has killed several people, that's like a big difference as opposed to just drugs, right, and maybe supporting them that way. But just as it stands right now, I don't find it's a big a deal because he's not linked to him in doing anything like that. It's not like oh boy, I forget. There was a player for the Chicago Bears, Dave. Maybe you can remember, who was like running like a drug ring. He was like the head of it.
Sam Hurd.
Yeah, Sam Hurd. Like, it's not something
Look
like
at that.
You know what I mean?
That was football knowledge from this guy.
Yeah. And that's what I mean. Like, it's not something like that where GSP's like a drug kingpin in this thing helping this guy. You know what I mean? That's what I mean. He just simply knew the guy kind of through MMA and got arrested.
Or is he? Hold on 1 second, Jim.
Oh man, he would be. I don't know. That'd be interesting, but I don't think he is.
So, the guys from MMA Team Genesis with Doug Keys, they've got an open Facebook message going, and I've been communicating, and a couple of the guys are watching. Thomas Gonzalez, one of the heavyweight fighters, I asked him. I said, "What do you think about this GSP news?" And I'll read what he said, and then you let me know, Jim. It says, "I understand GSP is friends with the guy, but he needs to keep that separate from his public figure to avoid controversy and association." Your thoughts?
Well, it already looks like he's associated with them.
Right.
He's already put that out there by signing the affidavit or whatever that he knows this guy. So
do you even think it becomes an issue? Like, if he doesn't sign that affidavit? Like, I don't know the legal system, but let's assume that you're a drug kingpin. The only way that I would know that, Jim, would be like I would have to search it out like in the blotter or like go through all the documents trying to find out that Jim Gramm is a heroin dealer. Correct? I mean, I don't think it ever would have been a problem for GSP, ever. But like I said, when you're GSP, I guess you got to get out in front of everything.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's the two media strategies about it. Either get out in front of it and you put out that information yourself so you can control the spin, or you just sit back and let everybody and then release a counter statement. Those are I guess the two options that I remember in PR class. So I guess getting out in front of it does help, but at the same time, you're still admitting that you knew this guy. So regardless of how it is coming out, people are going to see you knew this guy was a drug dealer. And
Yeah,
there's going to be reaction to it, whether it's us going, meh, or people going, oh, how could you be associated with a drug? You know, so either way you look at it, it's probably going to be a negative spin. But at the end of the day, this guy makes his money and makes his living fighting inside eight-sided cage. And once he does that again, this will not matter.
correct. One last quote from Thomas. GSP's the hired muscle.
That's not bad.
That's a good one.
All right, let's get to round number 2 here on Beyond the Cage, presented by Fight Chicks. And round number 2 is brought to you by our friends at MMAinsider.net. You can follow them on Twitter at MMAinsiderNet. And real quick, Dave, Art Davie, who was one of the guys who made the UFC, the original UFC, the first ever UFC, he has a book coming out called Is This Legal?, where he chronicles the story kind of leading up to and after following the first ever UFC event back in 1993. That's now available for sale, print, and digitally. And Chuck Grace, he was able to get us a digital copy. So Dave and I are gonna read the copy first, and then he's actually gonna try to get us an interview with Mr. Art Davie himself to talk about the book and kind of talk about the early days of the UFC there. So I just wanted to throw it out there while we're here inside the MMAinsider.net round.
Yeah, good job from Chuck. Maybe we could read it to our fans on a Google Hangout. You have any thoughts on that?
I think we might get in trouble if we can't read the whole book, I don't think, because they want people to buy it, right?
Oh, yeah. I didn't mean that, Art Davies people. I didn't mean that. I meant go out and buy it right now.
I'm sure we could read an excerpt as like a promo, but not the whole thing. Yeah, we definitely would get in trouble for that.
You know who wouldn't get in trouble for reading it? Ray Flores.
He
Am I
probably would
right?
get hired. He did the official audiobook for it. All right, well, here on number 2, we're going to talk about UFC Fight Night 43, which was in New Zealand. And the first fight of the night was in the welterweight division as Robert Whittaker took on Mike Rhodes. And, Dave, looking at this fight, I think we definitely saw a better Robert Whittaker than when we saw him fight Stephen Thompson. We saw a guy who was not staying in the pocket like he had been, not trying to always throw those big haymakers. We saw a guy that did a great job of moving in and out in range, throwing combinations, composing himself, not overexerting himself because we've seen him run out of gas before. He looked great for all 15 minutes. He even mixed some takedowns in the pictures. He was, just 1-of-1, but he was able to land some decent ground and pound. I think I was in the 3rd round he got that takedown. Overall, he was able to outstrike the Duke Rufus-Proc and Mike Biggie Rhodes 93-52 in total strikes, and just was more active too. He threw 213 total strikes to Rhodes just being 115. And I think for Rhodes, yeah, he had the camp and everything, the full camp, and I think we definitely saw a better version of him than in his UFC debut, where he took on, I think he said, Dave, 10 days notice when we were breaking down the fight and previewing it. And the difference to me was really the hands. We saw Mike Rhodes throw a lot of kicks. Some of them were successful, but with the hands, he just didn't seem as confident, and that's what Whittaker's so good at, is throwing hands. And if there wasn't going to be a threat with the hands, Robert Whittaker was going to have a field day, so to speak. And he just put on a great performance. And I think this was not only a good bounce back win, but I think we saw the next evolution of Robert Whittaker as a fighter, a guy that can do more than just simply go in the pocket and bang. We saw a guy that can become a pretty elite striker. And I'm looking at Robert Whittaker now. I already thought he was destined for big things, but seeing this fight and seeing the improvement from this fight to his last 2 fights. This guy's, doing the right things to get better in his career.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. In the Mike Rhodes fight, I noticed that too, that it seemed like he wanted to rely on his kicks, not so much his hands. He does come from Rufus sport, which is, you know, you know, uh, where kicking is a big deal. And I think, if I were saying Mike Rhodes was a video game, I think his kicks are pretty much maxed out, but he needs to start working on other aspects of his game. But you know, I think hopefully not. I don't want to see anybody lose their job, but I think Mike Rhodes might be gone after this fight, and I'd like to see him come to a regional show, do some good work at a regional level, and then come back and get his shot again. What do you think of this, Jim? Like you said, couldn't agree anymore with Robert Whitaker with what you said about him, how his progression is moving along. But on the undercard, Neil Magny defeated Rodrigo de Lima um, via punches in the second round. What do you think of Neil Magny and Robert Whitaker?
I like it. I like it a lot. That is, I think, a great matchup because you got the striking of Whitaker and Neil Magny. I guess you could call him more of a grappler, but he's pretty all around good fighter now, all around game. And I think both guys are young, both guys are hungry, and I think that you got the ultimate fighter tie. Even though Magny didn't win, he was still a finalist. Whitaker won the smashes. So I think that's a very good matchup, and I don't think that's a step down for either gentleman.
Yeah, that puts Neil on a 3, and what's that put Whitaker on? Oh, he just was coming off 2 losses. No, yeah, I was just looking at it, and I thought that would be a good one. The striking of Whitaker is very good, but Magny's got that reach and he's got that grappling, so it'd be a test for both guys.
The next fight of the evening was in the featherweight division as Charles Oliveira took on Hatsu Hioki, and Dave, oh boy, we know when we say fights are going to be like grappling battles. This one, we kind of had an inkling that it would be because we know Oliveira had to take this fight to the ground. It was paramount that he had to do that. He couldn't really stand with Hioki. He was not going to win that way. And Hioki never had been submitted before in his career. Also, jiu-jitsu black belt. It was going to be an interesting test to see if Oliveira, could go in there and out-grapple Hioki. And the first round, man, was back and forth. Guys were flipping positions, getting close to positions. I probably would have gave the round to Hioki. I think that he had more control on top and did a little more damage. But in round number 2, Oliveira was able to obviously get a choke and get a victory, but I kind of stemmed back to the first round because he did a really good job several times kind of getting that guillotine / kind of Dar's choke position, and Hioki was able to get out of it, but he kept on going for that and never let up pressure because Hioki was leaving his head open. I guess he really didn't think that he was going to get choked, and like we said, Oliveira can pull a submission out of nowhere. This guy is super slick. Maybe, I don't know if he's the slickest submission guy, Dave, but I think with this victory, he makes a case of being the best submission guy, not just in the division, but in the sport. I mean, to take out a guy like Hioki in the second round, 432, get that anaconda choke is awfully impressive. And, this puts him, to me, if not in the top 10, very, very close. This is a huge victory. And, we mentioned Hioki had lost 3 out of his last 4 fights, but all those fights were by decision against top 10 talent. None of the guys that he fought, Hioki was able to take him out. Here comes Charles Oliveira, and he's able to finish him. That's a big deal.
Correct. Charles Oliveira, just to go back to your point that you made just a second ago, in the amazing UFC rankings, they've now put him as number 14 in their top 15 rankings. Um, you know, you know what I like about Charles Oliveira, Jim? You don't think that he's going to do what he's going to do when you see him walk into the cage. He looks like just another dude that's going to walk, oh, this guy's going to get steamrolled. Like he's the most unassuming guy. And then what does he do? 9 times out of 10, you're tapping because of what he's doing. That now makes 11 of his 18 wins via submission. And, it's hard to disagree with any of the points that you just made. The victory over Hioki is a huge deal. Um, his submission game is like like you said. Name a better one. Name a better submission specialist in the sport.
The only one who comes to mind right now is Jacare. But I mean, even I feel like Jacare like does a great job of setting his up, and Oliveira is just like, even though he's good at submissions, you still don't think he's gonna pull them up. Like when he was fighting Andy Ogle, like that came out of nowhere. This one
Right.
against Hioki, you don't think he's gonna get Hioki in a front anaconda choke? Taps him,
Right.
you know, like, and I think that one when he fought Efren Escudero, you know, he scooped around, got the back, and then got that choke in standing. You know, this guy.
He did.
When he sees the opening on a position, he capitalizes on it. You know what I mean? It's not like he has to work and set it up. He just does it. You know, I don't know if that's instinct, skill. He just has that knack down.
Yeah, and I went back as you were talking, and he was the guy when I went to Rashad and Phil at the United Center in Chicago. He pulled off the reverse calf slicer. That was one I had to go back and watch because I was like, did he just sit on that guy's leg and the guy tapped out? No, but I mean, very, very innovative in what he does. It's got to be, we talk about like game planning for guys. He's got to be one of the most difficult guys to game plan for, wouldn't you think? Who do you bring in to mimic Charles Oliveira?
I have no idea, dude. He's on another level with his they say there's black belts, but if there was a higher belt than black belt, I think Charles Oliveira would have it. You know, if there was like a super metallic platinum diamond belt or something, that would be Charles Oliveira. You know what I mean? Like, he's gone beyond black belt, I think.
What do you want next for Charles Oliveira? According to, I'll just give you a little heads up here. According to the UFC's rankings, which ours are going to be outdated pretty soon, right, Jim?
Yes, they will be updated after this weekend. So I'm looking at, I guess that would be Monday the 6th. Yes, no, Monday the 7th.
Perfect. Make sure you guys check that out, facebook.com/Beyond the Cage podcast. Those will be updated. Right now we have to work with the UFCs. So ahead of him, to get into the top 10, we have Darren Elkins, Conor McGregor, Dennis Bermudez, and Jeremy Stevens. Do any of those wet your whistle?
Is Bermudez booked for a fight coming up?
I will effort that right now. That's because it's a live show and we can do whatever we want.
I would like Bermudez. I think Nick Lentz is already booked for an upcoming fight. Otherwise, I'd like Nick Lentz. And Darren Elkins, if he wasn't coming off a loss, I'd like that better. But that's a matchup I would like to see sometime in the future.
It looks as though, Dennis Bermudez is getting the step up that he was looking for. He will meet Clay Guida at the end of the month.
You know what's funny? I was thinking Clay Guida would be an option too. So it looks like both of those are out the window. So he might have to wait here, or Dustin Poirier's not booked for a fight.
Dang! I hate you. I swear to God, I was like, there it is.
Sometimes his name was escaping me for some reason. But our buddy Dustin.
Dustin Poirier is the only person looking at the top 15 that does not have a fight or did not just fight this past weekend. I think that would be. I don't think that elevates the standing of Dustin Poirier. I think that's kind of a trap fight, maybe, but might be the only option.
Well, we'll see. I guess we're gonna find out here in a couple of weeks what happens with him or Poirier. But looking at the next fight was in the heavyweight division as the Hulk Solo Paleli took on Jared Rosholt. And I tell you what, Rosholt was the first guy in quite a long time to dominate Solo Paleli, as Rosholt, really from the beginning, Dave, just pressed him up against the cage, started working the grappling, was trying to tire out the very big and powerful Solo Paleli, and used his fantastic wrestling to get the fight to the ground, land some nasty ground and pound. I think he had Paleli rocked on several different occasions in this fight, and I think we saw for the first time maybe a little weakness of the Hulk, and that's you have to go in there, put pressure on him, and get him in situations where he can't use that reach and powerful things to his advantage. And Rosholt was able to accomplish that, and in the process, look really good because he's shown some of his wrestling, but I think in this point, in this fight, he made a point to showcase the wrestling. And it looked very impressive. And he's wrestling, I don't know if it's MMA as good as Cain Velasquez, but amateur-wise, he's accomplished, if not more than Cain in the wrestling department. So he's a guy with that wrestling ability. He can make some waves in this division. I think getting that victory, like I said when we were talking about this fight, new blood for the heavyweight division, the winner puts themselves on the map in the heavyweight division as the next big contender, and I think that's what Rosholt did there in New Zealand.
Jim, things just got real. It's been delivered. Shout out to my wife. She's right over there. Anyway, work with me on this, Jim. Jared Rolshot and Mike Russo, same guy. And the reason I say that is it looks to me like Jared Rolshot has been 255, 260 pounds for a long time, and he knows how to use that weight. There's a way to be a big guy, to bulk up and be a big guy, but somebody like Mike Russo, somebody like Jared Rolshot, they've been big the entire time that they've been a wrestler. They know how to make 265 feel like 265 when it's on you for the entire 15 minutes. If that I hope that makes sense what I'm trying to say, but it's impressive when you see a big guy because Soa Palele is a very talented fighter, and if it was a striking battle, probably wins that fight. But basically what Rolshot did was play his game perfectly, tired out Soa Palele, and was able to walk out with the unanimous decision. I hope that made sense.
I got it. I think that was good. That was a good breakdown of what happened and what he can do with skills. And yeah, like you said, very similar to Mike Russo, who had kind of a win streak there. And we'll see. Hopefully for Rosholt, it doesn't he doesn't get tossed in there and get dominated, and then all of a sudden he's cut. So hopefully that doesn't happen. I think he can do some things here in this division. So and believe it or not, despite his looks, Dave, he doesn't look like he's 27 years old, but this dude's only 27. Like he looks like he's 36. but he's only like 27, so he has a lot of years left. That's why I don't think he's just going to be a flash in the pan.
Hey, I'm 34. I'm about to be 34, and I don't look a day under 26. See that?
Jared Rosholt looks older than you, so that's what I mean. Like,
and the other thing too I like about Rolshot is, like you said, he's young and he's new. He's new to the sport. His first professional fight was in February of 2011. I mean, he's still improving, learning and improving. So, new blood in the heavyweight division. I like it.
Also, I just looked at the numbers. It looks like he outstruck like Soa Palele like 148 to like 60 or something ridiculously. Wow. So if you do that, you're gonna win a fight. So
can I just mention
the stats don't lie sometimes.
Can I just mention that the next time I tell you I'm going to go to Vegas for a fight, please, please, please tell me to go as early as possible. Ariel Helwani's posting pictures that he's inside a Mandalay Bay's casino, and everybody that's on the 175 card, they're doing the interviews live in the casino. Like, I could sit there all day and just be like, hi, Chris. Hi, Rhonda. Man.
Oh, and the totals on the striking, 148 to 46, Rosholt outstruck Soa Palele. So I just want to throw that out there because it's like 100 more strikes. That's ridiculous. All right, well, let's get to the main event of Fight Night 43, and James T. Hunna took on Nate Marquardt at middleweight. Before we get to the fight, how did you like the Maori Warriors doing the war chant dance like they do before the New Zealand national rugby team games for James T. Hunna. How did you? I thought that was excellent. That was awesome. I wish we could see more creative things like that.
I saw it and I liked it. Did they? I kind of fast forwarded up into that point, and I saw him, and I was like, wait a second, and I started watching it. Did they explain what that was? Did they explain? Did they give people a background on it?
I think they meant basically the Maori warriors it was like the tribe in New Zealand, like that was like the Native Americans here, the different tribe, like that was the tribe, the Maoris, and they had the Maori warriors, and they would do this big war chant before they would get in battles and stuff with people. And so it's a strong heritage there in New Zealand, kind of a warrior thing, kind of like I guess the Hawaiian warriors and whatnot. So it's something that they've passed down tradition. They still kind of keep the tradition alive of the Maori warriors, and they do their big war chants before all the big rugby games. So James C. Hunna being from New Zealand, I think those are the same guys who do it for the national team. So they were able to come in there and do their war chant, kind of, so to speak. And maybe to compare it here in the U.S., kind of when Florida State, has the Seminole come out there on the horse and throw down the flaming spear, kind of something like that. And it's a way to get everybody hype and stuff. And I just thought that was, I just thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and it's cool when they're in their hometown, when they're in their home country like that. It's pretty cool, but I don't want to. Just being real here, I don't want to see that when, Anthony Pettis is fighting in Milwaukee. They have like, the Milwaukee Fire Department, or you know what I mean? Like, let's keep it. I'm all about getting some culture and learning a little bit when I'm watching, but let's not get out of hand here. You know what I mean?
I gotcha. Like, keep it regional. Keep it to that thing. Like James T. Hunna shouldn't come out to that every single time. Though I would like it, but I get what you're saying. Like, it's in New Zealand. Let's do it for him.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, well, looking at the fight, Dave, Nate Marquardt obviously moving back up to middleweight from welterweight, and obviously going to have some kind of renewed energy, didn't have to cut as much weight, and so he just put the pressure on T. Hunna right away, did not allow Hunna to sit back, kind of get comfortable in this new weight class, get comfortable with regaining after the weight cut, and really just didn't let T. Hunna get off any offense. I mean, he just went right at him early and often, was able to land 2 quick takedowns. He outstruck T. Hunna 29-17 in this time, was able to use those strikes and damage and control to get James T. Hunna in an armbar, and was able to submit the man from New Zealand in the very first round. And I think this was a case of, I don't think it was T. Hunna just being out conditioned or having trouble with the weight cut. I mean, he looked good, he looked big in the weight class. I just don't think he was expecting Nate Marquardt to put that much pressure on him early, because that's not really Marquardt's game. If you look at some of his fights, he's never been a guy that goes in there and rushes his opponent. And I think that strategy worked great, and I think it just caught T. Hunna off guard, and he implied the perfect strategy, go in there and win that fight against a bigger guy and stronger guy. And credit to Marquardt for a great game plan, and was able to get the victory, and makes you think, well, maybe he can make another run here in this division.
Yeah, Marquardt looked great except for the facial hair. That's got to go. He looked a little too Duck Dynasty for me, but yeah. Once again, to go off my point earlier about not real busy at work, been on Fight Pass, went back and watched some of Nate Marquardt's fights, and I would implore it, like Jim, you've got the Fight Pass as well. Go back and look. They've got some of his Strikeforce fights, and then a couple of his older UFC fights are on there. Look at him then and look at him now. Completely different. He looked amazing Saturday compared to those other ones. And I don't know if that's an evolution of the game, if that's trying to get that glare off the screen, jeez. I don't know if that's just an evolution of Nate Marquardt, if that's, harder training, what it is, but Nate Marquardt looked great, and I definitely think he can make waves in the division.
Well, let's get into round number 3 here, brought to you by our friends at MMAforlife.ca. Follow them on Twitter @_MMA4Life. And, of course, Jim Gramm and Dave Sadler here on Beyond the Cage, presented by Fight Chicks. And we're going to break down UFC Fight Night 44 here inside this round. And, of course, that was in San Antonio this past Saturday. 6 fights were shown on the main card. First fight of the night, 155 pounds. Joe Ellenberger against James Muntasiri, both guys making their UFC debuts. And this was definitely a back-and-forth fight for 15 minutes. It was a split decision, a fight where I think definitely could have went either way. And looking at how I saw this fight, Dave, in the first round, Muntasiri definitely showed off his great striking skills, and he got Joe Ellenberger in a really bad position, came very close to finishing Ellenberger. And in the round, how do you like outstriking Ellenberger 64-7 in that round? Yeah. So let's say he won that round. In round number 2, Ellenberger was able to use his wrestling to his advantage. He was able to land 2 of 3 takedowns, and then he dominated Muntasiri in the striking, outstriking him 31-9. So heading into the third frame, it was clearly 1-1. And in that third frame, man, Ellenberger had 1 takedown. He was 1 of 4. He controlled a little bit, but I thought Muntasiri once again landed a lot of damage. Looking at the total strikes, he outstruck Ellenberger 46-12 in that third frame, and I thought he was going to get the victory. I thought that third round I would have gave to him 29-28, but the judges saw it 29-28 twice for Joe Ellenberger, and I think I hate to say it was just because of that 1 takedown, but I think that's what it was, because you look at the overall stats, Dave. Ellenberger was only 3 of 10 on takedowns, which is not great, and 2 of them were inside the second round. Total striking, he got outstruck 119-50 and was able to win this fight. Now, like I said, this was a close fight. I don't think it was by any means a 30-27 for either gentleman, but I thought Muntasiri, he did a great job. You know, he trains with the Black House guys there, and both guys I think do have a bright future. But Muntasiri looked really good on that night, on short notice, taking on Joe Ellenberger. I thought he did enough to get the victory, but judges saw it the way of Ellenberger.
Yeah, I don't even know how to chalk this one up. Is this this was Ellenberger, his debut in the UFC. It's one that he was waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting to make, and then he finally made it. So was there a little bit of I'm here, and then a little bit of coasting? I don't know. I didn't find the fight overly exciting. I didn't think when the cards were read, I wasn't completely shocked one way or the other. And from the UFC point of view, what a terrible way to start out a free card on a Saturday. Nothing really it wasn't really like, oh my God, I'm ready for all the fights tonight. None of that happened. So we'll see. Ellenberger is definitely going to go back to the drawing board here, and the fact that he gets to train with his brother Jake and all the other guys that Jake's got is probably going to be a pretty big help for him.
Well, the next fight of the evening also went to a split decision in the middleweight division as Clint Hester took on Antonio Neto. And looking at this fight, Dave, let's go over some of the striking totals here. Neto, believe it or not, actually outstruck Hester 73-50. Hester was 1 of 1 on his takedowns. Neto was 3 of 8. Looking at the striking, Neto dominated Hester in the first round, outstriking him. This is pretty good when you can do this. 48-1 in the first round, and was able to land 2 of 4 takedowns. The second round was a lot closer. Hester out-edged Neto 19-18 in strikes, and that was the one Hester takedown was in that round. And then in round number 3, Hester, to me, dominated that round, definitely won that round as he outstruck Neto 30-7. Neto was able to land 1 of 3 takedowns. So you had a very dominant first round by Antonio Neto. Then in rounds number 2, kind of struggled, and I don't know if it was the size of Hester, if it was the conditioning of Neto, if it was octagon rust, the fact he hadn't fought in over a year. A lot of things go into it. You know, they had mentioned Neto was thinking about dropping down to 170, but to me, if he's having bad conditioning at 185, how's he going to remedy that by going to 170? You know, I don't know. He seemed to definitely fade in those second and third rounds, and I can see why the judges gave the second and third rounds to Clint Hester, because he definitely faded, and Hester was definitely getting stronger as the fight. And I think he learned, if he didn't know already, that when Neto was standing with him, he couldn't hang with him. it was apparent moving on. Maybe he didn't know early because after that early takedown, but Hester was able to weather off the early storm. He didn't do anything great when he was on his back, but he was able to stave off not getting finished. And for a guy at Clint Hester, at least in the ground game, that's what he had to do, was hold on, get his defeat, and showcase his better skills. And that's what he was able to do.
Yeah, a couple points, Jim. Clint Hester's huge. True? True or false? That was a question.
I'm sorry, could you say that again?
I said Clint Hester's absolutely huge. True?
Yes, he is a huge middleweight. Yes, that is apparent.
Yeah, and to be honest, I thought going into this, I thought that Clint didn't have much of a chance. I wanted him to, but I just thought that Antonio was going to have a little bit more of a well-rounded game, and that it was going to what's the word I'm looking for? It was going to kind of stifle the game of Clint Hester. But Clint Hester, like you said just a minute ago, Jim, he was able to withstand round 1, get better in rounds 2 and 3, and when you're a big guy like that, guys are going to come at him in that division and try to finish him early because they don't want to deal with the size and stuff of Clint Hester. But I was very, very impressed with Clint Hester in this fight. Going into the decision, I had no problems thinking that it was going to be Clint Hester. Also, you realize he's got like the 3rd longest winning streak in the UFC?
I believe that's 4 in a row for him now, right?
Yeah. I mean, granted, they're all kind of at that TUF level, the Ultimate Fighter level, but I think that he's proved that he deserves a step up in competition.
Absolutely, and I think he'll get it. And like you said, I think this split decision you don't have as big a deal with, I think, as the last one.
True.
I think, was that second round close? Could you see the judges scoring it either for Neto or Hester? Yeah, but I think the way the fight was going and how it was progressing, it painted a picture of Hester winning. Whereas in the Ellenberger fight, I think it was clearly that Muntazeri was getting more damage, and he was closer to winning the fight than Ellenberger.
I think,
yeah. All right, well, let's get to the third fight of the evening here on the card from San Antonio, and that was in the featherweight division as Ricardo Lamas took on Hakran Diaz. And I'm going to be honest, Dave, Hakran Diaz looked good. Much like Neto, a guy that was coming on a year layoff, we hadn't seen him for a while, take on a guy who's, albeit a loss, but still fresh off a title shot in the UFC's featherweight division. And I think I saw positives and negatives for both guys. I think we saw Hakran Diaz, he can stand. He's not just simply a jiu-jitsu guy going in there grappling. He can go in there and stand and throw. I thought he had great kicks all night. I thought his leg kicks were on point. I think Lamas was he probably thought leg kicks were going to happen, but not that good. I mean, those were really good leg kicks by Hakran Diaz. And I think for Lamas, something we saw in this fight we didn't see in his title fight was him bounce around a lot more, moving, and I think being a little more active. And I think against Aldo, don't get me wrong, you're all taking on Jose Aldo. We all know how electric he can be with just one strike. He was waiting a little more to counter in that fight, and I think that's kind of why he lost against Jose Aldo. He was not looking to strike first. He was looking to strike second just to make sure he didn't get hit with anything big against Jose Aldo. Now this time against Diaz, I don't know if it was the game plan or maybe he just knew, like, I'm probably not going to get knocked out by Hakran Diaz. So we saw him moving in there, being a little more active. And I think that's really why the sole reason he won this fight, because he got shut down in the takedown department. Surprisingly, he did not. I think he was maybe credited with one takedown. I'm going to double check the stats here. And Hakran Diaz, conversely, he wasn't able to really land much either. I mean, Lamas was 2 of 11 on takedowns, and Diaz was 2 of 5, but neither really sustained those takedowns, either guy. So both guys had tremendous grappling, keeping this on the feet, and it was close. I mean, you look at the total striking numbers, Lamas was 50 of 111, and Diaz was 57 of 100. I mean, this was a razor-close fight, but I think because Lamas was moving forward more, that's why he got the fight. And it's hard to. I don't think Lamas had a bad performance or anything, but maybe Diaz had a better performance than we think. It was just a really close fight, and I was a little surprised at how close it was, Dave.
Yeah, in this fight, if you watch it just as it is, I completely agree. It's a very close fight. Everything you said about Diaz was spot on. Ricardo Lamas broke something in his hand at the middle of the first round, which I think I think it obviously switches the how the fight's going to play out. But I thought that I completely agree. I thought that Hakran Diaz did more than I thought he was going to do. I thought it would be very dangerous on the ground, but like you said, his kicks were good. This is not an easy fight for Ricardo Lamas to come back to, and I thought he handled it well. He didn't put himself into too many real dangerous positions. He was, like you said, he was moving a lot more and kind of getting back to the way Ricardo Lamas was, which earned himself the title shot. So I think Lamas is ready to move up, get one of those top two guys. I don't think that win earns him a title shot, but he can definitely get back into the talk. And I don't think it's a terrible loss for Hakran Diaz. Do you?
I don't think so. Not at all. I mean, he's taking on a guy who's top 5 in the division, and he almost beats him. I mean, I know it was a unanimous decision, but this could have very easily been a split decision. And like we said, this guy was on a year layoff.
Yep.
So to go in there after a year and take on a guy the caliber of Ricardo Lamas and nearly beat him, that's a big deal. And so I think Hakran Diaz, he moves up the rankings simply by losing. You know what I mean? Like that wasn't a bad loss at all. To go toe to toe with a guy like Ricardo Lamas. So I think Hakran Diaz gets somebody pretty solid his next time out. I think that he proved that he can handle it, and he was on. I think this was his first main card too. I don't think he'd even been on the main card in his other 2 UFC fights. I think they were both Brazil cards, and he was on he might have been on the undercard. So this was a pretty big deal for him getting on the main card and everything, and year layoff. So he performed really well, and he's a guy that definitely I think has skills, and can maybe be a guy to look out for here in the future. Well, let's get to the next fight of the evening. And looking at that, it was in the middleweight division as Cesar Ferreira took on Andrew Craig. And looking at this fight, Dave, we said the size of Ferreira would probably be the difference. Could Andrew Craig really kind of deal with that size? And to me, I don't think he really was. Especially in the first 2 rounds, Ferreira was really able to impose his will. Came close to, I think it was in the, I think it was in the first round, Dave. That's when he landed that takedown, had back control. Came very close to getting a rear naked choke and really dominated that first frame. And in the second, to be honest, that nothing really happened in the second round. I mean, these are the total striking numbers. Ferreira outstruck Craig 9-4. In 5 minutes of action, Ferreira was 0 of 2 on takedowns, and Craig was 0 of 1. I mean,
his corner's like
that's the definition of nothing happening.
His corner brought him back to the stool. They're like, "Sit down. You threw 9 punches, or you landed 9 punches."
Yeah. So that third round could have went either way, and then in the third round, Craig, he put on a great performance, and I didn't think he came close to finishing this fight, but I think it was kind of just a little too late for him.
Yeah, I know our breakdown's not been super technical in this one, but it really is just a matter of these were 2 middleweight guys that they just kind of they were just kind of there. They were very timid. Nobody really wanted to take full advantage of anything. And, it was just 2 middleweights that seemed very timid in this fight. And I don't think either one of these guys takes a huge step forward or a huge step back in this fight. It was just kind of a dud.
Yeah, and like I said, Craig made it interesting there at the end. He definitely knew he had to do something to try to get a victory. Had to go in there and get a finish. But I think at the end of the day, like we said, the size was a big difference in this fight. And I think for Andrew Craig, I think he has to try to make a look at 170. And I think unlike Neto, who we saw fade at 185, I think Craig, he showed that he can go in there and last. He can get dominated, he can get hit with some big shots and still keep on coming. So I think Craig, looking at the two middleweights that lost, I think he transitions to 170 better than Neto. I mean, I could be wrong on that, but that's just my feeling.
Let's move on to the co-main event.
All right, in the co-main event of the evening, it was in the welterweight division as Kelvin Gastelum took on Nicholas Musoke. And look at this fight, Dave. Musoke, he did what he does best. He went in there and grappled, at least in the first round, and he was able to dominate Kelvin Gastelum in that first frame and landed 2 takedowns. Now, he didn't outstrike Gastelum, but definitely controlled the whole fight, got the back of Gastelum, and Gastelum didn't really look good that first round. I thought, man, if Musoke can go in there and dominate Gastelum like that, this could be a long fight. This could look really good for the Swede. And then in rounds number 2 and 3, Gastelum, I think, kind of took a page out of what he was doing against Rick Story and went back to kind of striking hard, being aggressive, using a high tempo. Kind of like, I mean, if you go back and watch his last fight against Rick Story, he was having fun going there and striking with Rick Story. And I think he kind of maybe said, all right, maybe if I can do that, maybe I can throw this guy off his game because he's a better grappler than I maybe gave him credit for. And that's what he did. I think he just went in there and just blitzkrieged Musoke, who just I think was shocked by the output and the damage. And to be after those 2 takedowns in the first round, Dave, he didn't try another takedown Musoke until the 3rd round. I mean, that's taking a guy out of his game, with damage. And
right.
He outstruck Musoke 41-20 in that second round. And in the second round, Dave, Gastelum threw 100 strikes. So that's being aggressive. You threw 100 strikes in 1 round. That's being aggressive, and I think he took Musoke off his game. And then round number 3 continued more of the same. Outstruck him 44-13. Musoke finally tried to mix in some takedowns, but at that point, he was gassed. He got hit with a couple of those nice body kicks. He was not in the same condition that he was in round number 1. And I think for Gastelum, it's not like a huge comeback victory, but he was able to go through a horrible first round, come out, kind of change his strategy almost on the fly and take another fighter completely out of his game and do what you want to do. And he just took over this fight and put a stamp on it. And I thought this was a very impressive performance by Kelvin Gastelum.
Hey, this was an impressive performance, but, huge but. He weighed in at 172.75 pounds. And he's had problems making weight. He was on the Hendricks card, and he had to weigh in 3 times. Gastelum did. And, yeah, you're going on quite the roll in the welterweight division, but this is not good. Who's that flyweight that should be the champion, but he can't?
John Lineker.
Yeah, Lineker. I mean, that dude should be he could be a contender at flyweight, but he can't even get to, like, 130. So, I mean, all of his fights are at, like, Flabanum weight, like right in the middle there. But, his performance was great, but you have to get that fixed. You absolutely have to get that fixed because the UFC, you could put Gastelum on a card as a co-main event or a main event in his hometown because he's got that story, wasn't supposed to win the Ultimate Fighter, beats the amazing, let me try that again, the amazing Uriah Hall. And, he does all that stuff, but they can't put their full force behind you if you can't do something as simple as making weight. That's the one thing that you have control over in the entire fight process is your weight. And that's going to hold this young man back unless he can figure it out. I don't think he's well suited enough to stay or to go to 185, even though he won the Ultimate Fighter at that weight. I don't think he can compete there.
Well, the main event of the evening was in the featherweight division as Cub Swanson took on Jeremy Stephens with what you and I, Dave, think is a shot at the title on the line. And this fight went all 5 rounds, which, to be honest, I was surprised. I thought this would get finished some way by either of these two gentlemen. And I think the difference of this fight was really the footwork and the ability to get in and out of the pocket of Cub Swanson. I really think that's why he won this fight. Now, Jeremy Stevens had a very dominant second round after a very even first round that could have went either way. But Stevens, I think, landed a big shot kind of there towards the end of the first round. I think that gave him momentum in the second round. He had a very dominant second round, came very close to finishing Cub Swanson. And then in round number 3, we saw Swanson kind of answer right back and have a very dominant round of his own, especially landing that nice body kick, which he landed, I think, 3 or 4 times over the course of the night. And you could tell it affected Jeremy Stevens right after Swanson landed it all the times. And that was a very dominant round for Cub Swanson. So at that point, I probably would have had a 2-1 Swanson. Now, rounds 4 and 5 are really close. I think Jeremy Stevens, because of the body kicks and conditioning, he had never been 25 minutes before, I think was slowing down a little bit. And I think rounds 4 and 5 were pretty close. I probably would have gave round 4 to Swanson. I think he was definitely more active, and the fight metric stats prove that as he outstruck Stevens 22-13. And then in round number 5, I actually might have gave to Stevens. That was a close round as well. It was a round where neither really did anything, to establish that round. But at that point, it wouldn't have mattered had Stevens won that round, because I would have had it 3-2, and Swanson getting the victory. And that's the way the judges saw it: 4-1 actually on 2 cards, and 3-2 on the other in favor of Swanson. And like I said, I think it was Swanson's ability to use that footwork and move in and out of the pocket, and I think hand speed too. He had a little faster hands, and I really think that's why he won on that night. I don't think he's like leaps and bounds ahead of Jeremy Stevens or anything like that, but that's one thing Jeremy Stevens has never really had, is that footwork, kind of that bounce in his step. He's always kind of plodded along looking for the big powerful shot, but that was the difference, was the footwork, and that's something Jeremy Stevens has to work on, because there are guys who have great footwork, like Cub Swanson, like a Dustin Poirier, like a Jose Aldo, and Frankie Edgar, maybe the king of the footwork. There are guys at the top of this division that can do things like that can make the difference in this fight, and that's what Jeremy Stevens has to go and work on.
Yeah, I think that you nailed the you nailed the recap when you said that these two guys aren't that far apart. They really are not. I think that Cub Swanson deserves to fight for the belt after the Aldo Mendez fight. I think he deserves it. Jeremy Stevens, if he wins another fight, I say you put him right back in there for a number 1 contender spot. He didn't get dominated. This is the first time I believe he's gone 5 rounds in his entire career, even on lower level shows. Just double checking here.
I'm pretty sure that's correct. It was both. I think for both guys, they had never been 5 rounds.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Cub Swanson's been around. Like I said, these two guys, like we both said, these two guys are both right there. This is why they have those fights, to see who takes that step up. Cub Swanson, the opportunity was right there. He grabbed it. I think he'll get the title shot. And like I said, I really don't think Stevens is that far off. I'm going to take a look, Jim, while I'm pausing here. I'm going to see where the rankings, where they put Stevens. Do you remember what he was before the fight?
I think they had Stevens at 11 and Swanson at 4, if I'm not mistaken, before the fight.
They currently have Stevens at 10, moving up a spot from 11, and they now have Cub Swanson moving from 4 to 2. And how Ricardo Lamas dropped the spot after a victory is beyond me. But I digress. Like I said, check out our rankings next Monday. They'll be much better, I promise.
I think they will be. But yeah, definitely I think he's deserving of this. Is now 6 in a row? Or 5 of 6 in the UFC, right, for Swanson?
For Swanson, that is 6 in a row, 6 of 7 in the UFC.
Okay, yeah. I knew it was 6 in a row, but I got the 5 of 6. Yeah. So, I mean.
His only loss was to Lamas.
Right. So, I mean, 6 in a row, beating the guys he's beat. Yeah, it's time.
How about this, Jim? 6 in a row with 4 finishes. Not just pitching guys to death.
Right. Yeah. So he's definitely deserving, and whether it's Aldo, I mean, I hate to break down the fight. Like, I hate to say it's like Jose Aldo wins, but I do want to see Aldo Swanson too, because if you remember all the way back in the WC, if you haven't checked on your Fight Pass yet, Jose Aldo knocked out Cub Swanson in like 5 seconds with a flying knee. So
That's
I
the one
really
where
would like to see, you know what I mean? I like to see what would happen now. That's why I really want to see Aldo Swanson too. I wouldn't be disappointed if it's Swanson Mendez, but I'm just saying I really want to see. I'm like, he can't get knocked out again in 5 seconds, right? You know what I mean? That's why I want to see that again.
I have a feeling they would work on the flying double knee. Okay, so
Yeah,
when the bell rings, go this way. Don't go that way towards him. Just cut around him. Anyway,
all right.
Jim,
Well,
are you ready to preview some fights?
yeah. Let's do that. And I know this is technically out of order, but because we're doing this on Wednesday, I'm not going to change our show and for our viewers and everything and get confused just because of the Ultimate Fighter finale. So we're going to do something a little different here in round number 4, brought to you by our friends at Bluegrass MMA. You can follow them on Twitter at Bluegrass MMA, and of course visit the website bluegrassmma.com. And we're going to talk about the Ultimate Fighter because we haven't talked about it as much as we have past seasons in terms of a week-to-week basis. So we're going to kind of talk about that there. Obviously, the fight between Frankie and BJ, and because the card hasn't been finalized yet, but people expect Wednesday Beyond the Cage, so we're doing it on Wednesday. I'm not going to throw anybody off and their listening habits here. So for our full picks, when this is finalized at midnight tonight or whatever, our picks will be completely updated on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Beyond the Cage Podcast. I'm going to put a post about saying, hey, TUF 19 picks completely finalized. I just want everyone to know that, right off the bat, that's why we did it this way, and that's why it's here in round number 4, because they're going to focus on the real big fix and the actual fights we do know exist as of right now here on Wednesday afternoon in round number 5. So I just wanted to throw that out there. But
can I clarify something before you start?
Yes.
This is the Bluegrass MMA round, and Jim, no pressure breaking this down, but I've received a message from Juan at Bluegrass MMA that he's watching.
Oh, so, all right. And of course, speaking of Bluegrass MMA, because they kind of do the regional thing here in the Midwest and whatnot. Cover Ohio. Guess where Dan Spawn on the Ultimate Fighter is from? Columbus, Ohio. So there you go. There's the connection right there, just in case you were wondering. No, but
ironically, he just tweeted that Dan Spawn is at the airport. But is he going to just watch the fights? Is he going to be in the finale?
He'll be on the card, I think.
Tune in to Fox Sports 1 at 9 Eastern, right?
Yeah. 9 Eastern.
Or no. 10 Eastern, 9 Central, and find out if he wins.
Right. No, but looking at this season, how it's been, we kind of talked about when Dana White had that quote a couple weeks ago saying it was the worst ever season of the Ultimate Fighter. You and I were like, it's too early to tell. Maybe the fights haven't been the greatest, but that's not to say none of these guys won't turn out to anything good. But we already have 2 guys that have booked their shot in the finals, and we have Corey Anderson was the first light heavyweight, and he's going to face the winner of Matt Van Buren and Dan Spawn, who will fight on tonight's episode. And then in the middleweight division, we have Eddie Gordon from, once again, Team Edgar. So 2 Team Edgar guys are ultimately in the final. And he will fight either his teammate Diego Lima or Roger Zapata, who will fight again tonight on the episode. So just, I guess, a real quick preview of the 2 fights we're going to see tonight. I would favor Dan Spawn. I didn't really see a lot from Matt Van Buren, in his win to get to the finals. I think it was Josh Smith that he fought. The guy, speaking of another guy, Bluegrass MMA, another guy from Kentucky. So I think that's
Josh Clark.
Josh Clark. I knew it was Josh. Why did I say Smith?
Wait, who were you just talking? Who did you just say?
Matt Van Buren.
He beat Chris Fields in the elimination round, and now he's fighting Daniel Spawn.
Okay, then why?
Chris Fields is the
other Irish guy.
Yeah, and they hate each other, and then
who did the Kentucky guy lost to? He lost to somebody.
Corey Anderson beat Josh Clark, if that's the guy you're thinking of.
Yeah. Okay, I got that was in the first round of the fights. Okay, I got confused there because then Corey Anderson beat Pat Walsh to get to the final. Okay. Got my names confused there. That's what happens when it's live, right? All right, watch what happens live. All right, and so, but no, looking at this, we were talking about, was it the worst season? Yeah, I don't think it's the worst season, but moving into the finals, Corey Anderson, I think He has a really good wrestling game. Very strong, very physical, and I would like to think he's going to face Dan Spawn. I didn't see a lot from Van Buren, in his fight. I didn't really see a lot there. I think the guy has skills. He said he felt flat, but I just didn't see a lot from him. So I would like to think Dan Spawn, either striking or grappling, because he showed off his grappling skills in his preliminary fight and showed off his striking skills in his fight to get out of the house. So Dan Spawn, I think, can do it in either way, and I think he's the advantage. So I think we're going to see a Spawn-Anderson final in the light heavyweight. And then for middleweight, let's be honest, Zapata got lucky. I mean, that was a crazy scenario. I mean, regardless of the number of strikes and output, he got dominated by control in that fight. Should have that point been taken away? Probably not, but with the point getting taken away, and then doing the draw, and then some, it just doesn't seem conceivable that he won. But he did. He's in the semifinal now, but he says he likes to stand and bang, but Diego Lima is a beast. I mean, if there's one thing we know he can do is stand and throw. I just don't think that that's going to last very long. I think Zapata got a lucky break, and I think that Lima's going to put that luck streak to rest here in the final. So I think we're going to see a Lima Gordon final.
Jim, get your pen out. I'm going to tell you this so you don't have to.
Is that your BJ pen? See what I did there?
I'm trying to make trying to see if there's any way. Yes, this is my BJ pen. Now all you need is a Frankie. Wait. Never mind. Anyway.
I'm sorry, that was a horrible joke. Continue. I'm sorry, I threw you off your point.
Tune into the live shows and check out all the fun that we have. Get your pen out. I'm going to give you my picks. I think Douglas Lima wins his fight tonight. Diego Lima wins his fight tonight. I think
Douglas Lima would probably win the fight too.
As well, yeah. I think he'll beat Eddie Gordon in the final, and I think that Daniel Spawn steamrolls Matt Van Buren, and I think he's able to beat Corey Anderson in the final. That's what I think is going to happen. I know we're breaking down the finale. There's really the only other fight that we can talk about is Frankie and BJ, but we've talked about it 100 times before, Jim. The Ultimate Fighter has run its course in America. The problem is all of these guys are right here, and everybody in the UFC is up here. See here and here. So all of these guys are right on the tipping point, but nobody wants to be the guy that goes in there and throws reckless hands and gets knocked out because they're so close. What do you expect them to do, Dana? It's a business decision, just like it's a business decision for them to pay new people $8,000 and George St. Pierre $600,000. They're trying to make smart business decisions for themselves going forward. I mean, it's as simple as that. And all of these guys have names. I knew Dan Spawn, and I've never been to Ohio for a fight. I've heard the name before. I've seen highlights of him. I don't think this season is terrible. I think that they're just a little bit timid on this season because they want to get a contract into the UFC. And like me and you both said, they started taping TUF 20 yesterday. Well, that means nothing on Twitter is going to be exciting, or Instagram, because Felice lost her phone. But I digress. I think TUF 20 would be the perfect way to end the Ultimate Fighter in the U.S., and then, like you said, have it more of an international flair to it. I think that's maybe what Dana could have been. I think that might explain Dana's thoughts a little bit more than just the season was terrible.
And I think, man, it's tough. I think if Spawn Anderson that happened, I think that's going to be close, just because of Anderson's wrestling. But I think I would go with Dan Spawn just because of the striking. Obviously, he would have the better striking of the two, so I think I would go with Dan Spawn, and then I probably would go Diego Lima as well. I think Gordon's solid, but I really liked Lima's preliminary fight, and obviously the fight get in the house. I just think he has more skills than Eddie Gordon. He's more talented. So if Lima gets by Zapata, which I think will happen, I think that will happen, and should be interesting. Just real, we kind of talked about the fight, I guess, so to speak, when we first heard the announcement. To me, it's Frankie Edgar. I don't see how BJ Penn, with the layoff, moving to a new weight class, I just don't see how he goes in there and beats, Frankie Edgar. I guess cool for Frankie giving BJ a third shot at this, Dave, but there's just really, I just don't see how he does it. BJ has to be on a Super 8 game, and I just don't see it being really much different than the first two times that these two fought at 155 for the title. And just looking over, the cast overall, of the guys that maybe, don't make the finals here, or maybe didn't win their first fight. Are there any guys that that didn't make it that you think still might have a chance to be successful here in the UFC?
Was the Ian is the one that got the bad end of the deal, right?
Yeah, in the Zapata fight. Yep. Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't mind seeing him fight again. I thought the way that he handled that travesty, he handled it very professionally. He said, "Hey, I shouldn't have left it in the hands of the judges." I think if he had to do it again, I think we'd see a completely different fight, a completely different fighter. So, I would like to see Ian Stevens. And to be completely honest, the 8 guys that are left, I'd like to see him fight again. Just kind of because. That's about it. Hey, when we go, are we going to talk more about BJ and Frankie, or are we done with that?
Oh, yeah, we can definitely get your thought. I just wanted to mention, I think Cathal Pendred might be something. I would like to see him fight again. I think the only thing I saw really him lacking was conditioning. I think he kind of works on his conditioning a little bit. I think he can go in there and be good, because I think arguably, Dave, he had the 2 most exciting fights for what that's worth. At least the most back and forth fights. So I'd like to see Cathal Pendred again. But your thoughts on the main event, at least between the 2 coaches?
Well, I want to throw this point out. I got my Facebook open. People are sending me messages. Juan, Jake from Fight Chicks is sending me messages, and then one of my friends, Brent Todd, runs MMARecap.com. He says, remember I was just saying about the Ultimate Fighter, maybe the last season would be TUF 20. He said a point that you've made numerous times. How about another comeback season of the Ultimate Fighter?
Yeah, I'd like to see that. I mean, it's been season 4. Was the last one?
Yeah. Is Shoney Carter going to be on this one?
That would be great. I'd love that. I'd love it.
I bet he wears the same jeans, the same hat, everything. Anyway.
Domestically to continue. Not saying they gotta have every season be a comeback, but I think you can do it right in certain divisions. I think you can pull that off. I think you could probably pull that off for heavyweight, because I mean there's not a lot of heavy guys. If you want to guarantee like a title shot at the end, I think you could do it in heavyweight, and then you could probably do it in one of like the lighter weight classes, maybe even 45, just because Aldo's beat a lot of people. I could maybe see like a 45. This is just spitballing off the top of my head. Maybe a 170 again, but I think heavyweight would have to be included.
Yeah. I sent Brent a message because, hey, we're live. I can do whatever I want, Jim. I said, what weight class do you want? He says, that doesn't matter. There's no title fight. Just no title fight for the winner. There's just been a lot of good talent cut over the years.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, then you get what's really the incentive for those guys to get back in the UFC. They could get that anyway.
Yeah. Now,
I mean, it's a double-edged sword, though. Yeah. Would I like to see some talent come back? But if all they're getting is just maybe a little bigger contract, like,
right.
You know what I mean?
Just go.
I'd rather have it be guys I've never heard of. Then, at that case.
Right. I mean, it's all hypothetical. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah. I mean, I would love to see a comeback season, but I think you gotta
There's got to be an
if it's a
incentive.
comeback season, you gotta get people a reason to watch. And seeing washed up guys come back just to get another contract, I don't think is drawing ratings in. But if the winner gets a title shot, and that makes it interesting. That makes it compelling TV because
How
one of
about the
these
winner?
guys is going to get a shot at the UFC title.
How about the winner gets one of Dana's cars? That could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it's got, or maybe a number one contender. I mean, there's got to be some kind of. It can't just be a contract on a comeback season. I think there's got to be incentive because if there was just a comeback season, winner gets a contract, I'd be like, well, we just won't watch it.
Right. But here's my thoughts on BJ and Frankie. I land in Vegas tomorrow at 6:30. I'm immediately gonna go to the sports book. BJ is a negative 1,050. So if you were to bet $1,050 on Frankie, you'd only end up getting 100. For every 100 that you bet on BJ, you win $550.
Yeah, if you're gonna bet on Frankie, you got to do some type of prop bet. Like when would he finish him? How he's gonna, you know what I mean? Because that's the only way you're gonna make your money. If you just bet straight on Frankie Edgar, you're basically just getting your money back.
Correct me if I'm wrong.
You're not making any money.
If I bet 10 on Frankie or 10 on BJ to win, I win 105. I think, right?
Yeah, it would be, yeah. So I mean, like exponentially, like that's 10 times what you bet.
Yeah. So I don't even think BJ is going to win the fight, but for $10, I mean, seriously, for $10, I could win 105. Then I could turn that around and, I'm going to sound like I know what I'm talking. Then I could, do the craps thing. I don't know how to gamble. I just put the dollar in, press the button.
That's the easy way.
All right. Let's
round number 5.
Yeah, hold on. Let me
Oh, you gotta. The juice is juicing up.
Me. All right, I'm ready.
All right. Round number 5 here on Beyond the Cage, presented by Fight Chicks. Inside of round number 5, we are going to pick the main card fights for UFC 175, as Dave mentioned, in Las Vegas, Nevada, this Saturday night on pay-per-view. 5 fights will be shown on the main card. And Dave, real quickly, before we get to those main card fights, got a little bit of maybe a gripe. How is Uriah Faber and Bruce Lee right now on the main card, and Marcus Brunish against Doan is?
Okay, Jim.
Am I right though? Am I wrong in saying that?
Jim.
I mean,
Jim, you're starting to sound like a noob. The reason that he is on the undercard is because if you tune in, if you're flipping channels and you see Faber, this is my thought. The immediate thought is going to be, holy cow, Uriah Faber is on free TV. What's on the pay-per-view? So you're going to get to see Uriah Faber live on free TV, which the ladies are going to be like, ooh, look at his butt chin, yay! All that good stuff. Second, you're at least going to go and look and see who's on the main card. You may not like who's on the main card, but you're at least going to look. 2, is this 3 or is this C? I don't remember. Anyway, if you're Uriah Faber, when you go and get a sponsor, you get Mountain Dew to sponsor you. More people are going to see it on Fox Sports 1 and the subsequent replays all throughout the night on Fox Sports 1. You're going to have more eyes on you as an individual. And like I saw a quote from Faber, he said, I'm not a champion. I don't get a pay-per-view cut. So if more people see me on Fox Sports 1, that's better for my pocketbook than me being on pay-per-view, and my number of people that see me decreases.
Well, I get those reasons. I'm not completely lost on that, Dave, but I think it's because it's Marcus Brimage, and I have nothing against the guy, but the dude, when we get to the breakdown, here's a lot of fights won by decision. It hasn't been the most exciting guy. And that's why I'm saying if you compare the two matchups, which one would I rather see? Which one do I think is more deserving as a shot on the pay-per-view card? It's Bruce Reloy against Uriah Faber. You know what I mean? That's a great kickoff fight to the pay-per-view card. Whereas I think Marcus Brimage, his fight might not be. Now, this card is already stacked. It was going to not be sold whether regardless was Uriah Faber was on the main card or not. I get that. Because, I mean, he's not the star of the show. You know what I mean? It's Machida Weidman. It's Rousey and Davis. But I'm just saying from a prestige standpoint, and, you know, we talk about starting the night right. I'm not sure if that fight does it.
Let me ask you this question, Jim. This card had the Sonnen Belfort or the Sonnen Vanderlei Belfort fiasco, which would have put Brimage and Doan on the undercard, right? Would you have then been upset? I'll concede this. Faber and Bruce Leroy need to be the main event of the undercard. The fact that they're on the
undercard, yes.
Yeah. So they had to promote somebody, and think about it from the other side of the coin, Jim. If you put Brimage and Doan as your main event, who are you promoting on the? You know, when they say tune into Fox Sports 1 at 8 Eastern to watch the prelims, to watch fighters such as George Roop, that's not going to work.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have done a straight switch, to be honest. In that case, I would have left the Brimage maybe on the card, on the main card, or put the Uriah Hall as the main event as the undercard. Because, I mean, he's not taking on anybody knows.
That's true.
Well, that fight's on the card because it's Uriah Hall.
Correct.
So you're telling me Uriah Hall couldn't have been the main event of the undercard?
Correct. Now, this is a live show. We can do whatever we want. This leads to a much bigger point. 90% of the people who are going to tune in to 175, the only person that they know on the undercard is Uriah Faber or Bruce Leroy. This is another problem that they have. If they put Bruce Leroy and Uriah Faber on the main card, they have a chance to build up 8 guys that people have never heard of before.
Exactly. That's kind of what I was getting at. That's what the undercard's for.
To build, because eventually all 4 of those winners could be on a main card on their next fight, but people don't know who they are. Just like you said, Uriah Hall's fight is on the main card because it's Uriah Hall. People don't know Thiago Santos because he hasn't been presented to the people. So
I don't know. I feel like that's really half the reason that they show these undercard prelims fights. Because I honestly don't think they're translating that much into pay-per-view sales. But I think they're really to showcase guys who you wouldn't see, because if they don't broadcast it, you may never, maybe years before you see these guys fight, and then when you finally see him on a main card, you're like, who's this guy? Oh, he's been in the UFC for 5 years? I had no idea. You know what I mean? Like, right. So that's I think really why they do that, is to showcase some of these guys so people can say, oh, I remember watching him on the prelims.
You know how you alleviate complaining about Uriah Faber being on the undercard? You go to the fights. There's no difference from a prelim fight to a main card fight.
I'm going to have it on my DVR. It's not like I'm not going to be able to watch Uriah Faber. You know what I mean? But I don't know. As you know, I'm a big fan of Uriah Faber. I like Bruce Leroy. I just would have liked to seen it be on the main card. But all right, we got off the tangent. But I wanted to address it, and maybe it's not controversial, but I wanted to at least discuss it. So let's get to that first fight of the evening in the featherweight division, as Marcus Brimage will take on Russell Doan. Looking at Brimage, he is 3-1 in the UFC. His last fight was a loss to Conor McGregor. That was all the way back at Fuel TV 9, which was April of last year, and 4 of his 6 career victories are by decision. Yeah, that was a while ago. Looking at Russell Doan, 1-0 in the UFC. His only fight was a victory over Leandro Iza at Fight Night 34, and 6 of his 13 career victories are by knockout. Now, I don't know a lot about Doan. I know Brimage likes to keep things standing. He can be exciting, but he's also, like I said, he's also kind of been boring at times, kind of just pitter-pattering on the feet. And I think if you're Doan, you got to go in there and try to pressure Marcus Brimage. You got to get inside and take him down and try to tire him out, because I think Marcus Brimage, he can stand with a lot of people in this division and definitely has the power to knock you out. And I think oh, I'm sorry. This fight's at bantamweight, not featherweight. Let me recorrect that. It's a bantamweight. But yeah, in the bantamweight division, he definitely has the ability to knock out a lot of people. But I think for Doan, you don't want to give Brimage that opportunity to go in there and knock you out with one punch. And I think that's what Doan has to do, kind of mix things up, move in and out. Because I think Brimage is going to go in there wanting to stand and throw. I really don't think Brimage is going to do too much crazy. It's really on what can Doan do to get Brimage out of his element.
Correct. I'm very interested because Marcus Brimage, like you said, not the most exciting guy, kind of a fun guy from this time on The Ultimate Fighter, but he lost to Conor McGregor in April of last year. He said that. But it's taken him about a year to get back. I don't recall there being a big injury for Brimage, and now he's making his bantamweight debut. Yeah. So I wonder if he did it correctly, and maybe he did a test cut, and I'm interested to see what's going to go down. We may see a completely different Marcus Brimage in this fight. A year is a long time layoff, but if he did it right, got his weight where it needs to be, so that there's no fallback in his cardio, I think he'll be fine. From his time on The Ultimate Fighter, he was an exciting kid, always went in there ready to fight, and did you say Russell Doan had a fight in the bantamweight division? He did, right?
Yeah, he's 1-0 in the UFC.
Yeah, with a submission victory. So, I mean, it's a good test at the new weight class for Mr. Brimage, and we'll see as it kicks off the UFC 175 pay-per-view card.
The next fight of the evening will be in the middleweight division, as Uriah Hall will take on Thiago Santos. Looking at Santos, he is 1-1 in the UFC. His last fight was a victory over Hani Marks at Fight Night 39, and 5 of his 9 career victories are by knockout. Looking at Uriah Hall, he is 1-2 in the UFC. He finally got his first victory in the organization by defeating Chris Lieben at UFC 168, and 5 of his 8 career victories are by knockout. Now for Santos, or Mariotto, however you want to, whatever you want to call him, he has to get in Hall's face. He has to pressure the takedown. He has to frustrate Uriah Hall. That's really how you beat Uriah Hall. If you're going to stand at range and try to bang with him, we saw how that worked out for Chris Lieben. You're going to get demolished. It's going to happen. This dude is powerful, Dave. He's strong. He has kicks. He has punches. He knows how to avoid damage in the striking game. He's composed. He's what we like to call a stone cold killer in the stand-up game. You just, we keep it clean. We keep it a family show, but you really just don't want to, F with this guy. You know what I mean? Like, he's a bad dude. And, maybe I'm hyping him a little more than usual, but this is a guy you don't want to mess with. And for Santos, you got to get him close. You got to wear him down. You got to frustrate him, because his mental game is not always there, Dave. If you can get a little doubt in his head, that's how you can beat this guy. But if you don't put that doubt there early, it's going to be painful. He's going to bring the hurt.
Look, Uriah Hall is good. He's a very dominant striker, like you said. To me, the worst thing that could have possibly happened to Uriah Hall was that spinning hook kick to Adam Sella. From that point forward, it seems as though he knows it's the hurt game, but he's not a big fan of hurting in the hurt game. And like you said, if it's a striking competition to see, who can break what stuff, kicking or punching or whatever, Uriah Hall wins every single time. You know what I mean? But he just it seems like up here is where the problem's at. If he starts seeing an injury that he can go after, I don't have confidence in him that he's going to attack that injury. And if you got a cut on your eye, any corner guy is going to say, go for the cut, go for the cut, go for the cut. I just don't think Uriah Hall is going to do that. It seems like he's very timid at times. And I would agree with you that Thiago Santos needs to get up close and get in his face, and that would be the key for victory for Santos.
The next fight of the evening will be in the heavyweight division as Stefan Struve makes his return to the octagon against Matt Mitrione. Looking at Stefan Struve, he is 9-4 in the UFC. His last fight was a loss to Mark Hunt, speaking of Fuel, all the way back at Fuel TV 8 in March of last year, and 16 of his 25 career victories are by submission. Looking at Matt Mitrione, he is 7-3 in the UFC, and conversely, that's his overall record. His last fight was a victory over Sean Jordan at Fight Night 34, and 6 of his 7 career victories are by knockout. If it stays standing, this is a pretty even fight. Mitrione's a pretty solid striker. He definitely has power, and I think a guy that has a lot of confidence. I mean, he was the underdog against Sean Jordan. I don't think a lot of people were giving him the victory against Sean Jordan. He went in there and knocked him out in the first round. So I think Matt Mitrione has a lot of confidence. Now, for Stefan Struve, he always has the height and reach, and he's a tremendous grappler. He's slick and everything, but he's coming on over a year layoff, injuries and health problems. To which, Dave, we actually thought he would never fight again in the UFC. Is he 100%? Is he ready to go? And the last time we saw him, when we saw him fought Mark Hunt, he had several chances to put that fight away with punches, and he decided a couple times to try to go for submission, which didn't work out good, and he ends up getting his jaw broken and beaten by Mark Hunt. So has he been able to kind of make up for those type of deficiencies? Because Matt Mitrione's kind of similar to Mark Hunt. If he goes for a submission and misses it, Matt Mitrione still has the power to knock him out. You know what I mean? This is the guy, if you have a chance to put away with strikes, you put him away. You try not to do anything fancy. And I hope Struve learned that. If you have a chance to finish a guy with strikes, don't go for an armbar then that you might not get. And I really think Struve should win this fight. But once again, if he does something kind of stupid like that and lets Matt Mitrione into the fight, he can get himself knocked out.
Yeah, this is a fight that when they announced it, probably a whole lot of people weren't too excited about it. But my wife's got a heart condition, and seeing that Stefan Struve also had a heart condition and was able to kind of battle back from it, I was reading using some medication and stuff, and he was able to not only go back to training in the sport that he loves, but be able to compete at a high level. That's pretty impressive, and that's hard to ignore. So, win or lose, big props to Stefan Struve for coming back. As you were talking, Jim, I was just double-checking the rankings. What does this say about the heavyweight division that Stefan Struve hasn't fought since March of 2013, and he's still the 12th best heavyweight in the UFC?
I'm shaking my head. I'm going to talk so that way the camera flips to me. I'm going to shake my head because that's how it works. If I don't talk, it won't flip to me. So, yeah, it's... Oh, man. We talk about the UFC rankings, Dave, and we like to bash that they're bad, but this is a case where you can actually go, this is why they're bad. Like that's why we always bash them. It's things like that. A guy hasn't fought for a year, shouldn't even be listed on the rankings, and yet he's number 12.
Yeah, in a division that's loaded with people. But anyway,
right.
Yeah, I like Stefan Struve. I'm glad everything's taken care of with him. I think if it's a submission battle, clearly I think he's got the edge. He has a chance to get caught, but in the heavyweight division, everybody has a chance to get caught. I think this is a good fight. It's not somebody that's super, super dangerous like a Mark Hunt for Stefan Struve, but this will be a good fight, and who knows, maybe one of these guys will break the top 10 because Matt Mitrione's not ranked, so maybe he'll take over.
Hey, real quickly, I know there's, with the round 5 figures that you and I collect, there's kind of been some rumors that maybe they're going out of business forever, but if they ever make a Stefan Struve round 5, do you think he would have to be like double the size of the normal figure? Right? They can't make him the same size as all the other guys, right?
Yeah. You're absolutely right. It would be like
normally they're what 4 or 5 inches?
Look, it would be like this is Mark Hunt, and then like Stefan Struve.
Yeah, I mean he'd have to be, and I think that people would buy that, right? Because he's like double the size.
Right. Yeah. No, that's cool.
I was just thinking that in my head because we haven't talked about Stefan Struve in over a year, so we haven't said, hey, what if they made a Stefan Struve round 5? But
no, but he's not. They would make 48 more GSP figures.
Oh, right, yeah, they gotta show him in the purple gi first.
All right, let's digress and move forward.
The Quebec flag gi. All right, well, let's get to the co-main events of the evening as the rowdy one, Ronda Rousey, will put her UFC Women's Bantamweight title on the line once again, this time against Alexis Davis. Looking at the challenger, Alexis Davis, she is 2-0. Oh, correction, she is 3-0 in the UFC, overall riding a 5-fight winning streak. Her last fight was a victory over Jessica Ai at UFC 170, and 7 of her 16 career victories are by submission. Looking at Rousey, undefeated in her career and in the UFC at 3-0. Her last fight, she defended her title successfully by defeating Sarah McMahon at UFC 170, and 8 of her 9 career victories are by submission, and all of those are, of course, her signature armbar. Looking at this fight, Dave, standing up, Alexis Davis has the advantage. I don't think there's any ifs, ands, or buts about that. Grappling game, obviously Rousey's going to have the better takedowns with the judo. But when it comes to being on top, the jiu-jitsu, working for submissions, Alexis Davis is a very experienced Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt. She's been in the fight game for a very long time. She's done jiu-jitsu even longer. That's not to say Rousey can't submit Alexis Davis, but I think it's actually going to be really hard for Rousey to go in there and just kind of steamroller with the armbar. I think we may see kind of what happened to Sarah McMahon. We may see some knees in the clinch, maybe a knockout. I think that's more likely because I think Rousey can do that. She's definitely better in the clinch than Alexis Davis, but Alexis Davis is a real challenge for Ronda Rousey. I know Rousey's the favorite. She should be. But I think this fight is going to be closer than maybe some people think. I think Alexis, I don't know if she can beat Ronda, but I think it's going to be close. I don't think she's going to get steamrolled.
I think this is a fight. I think this is a fight for Ronda Rousey to assert herself as as a very, very dominant fighter. Her fight against Sarah was very quick. It showed that she could win via strikes. It shows she was a little bit more complete. This fight, she can't just take it to the ground and be successful with the armbar. This is a fight that is going to propel Ronda to that next level of stardom, I think, because I think she's going to be put into positions where she's going to have to battle out of them, a lot like Misha battled out of her armbars. Her armbar attempts at 162 and at 168. This is a big fight for Ronda. It's gonna propel her to bigger and better things. Hopefully, it propels her to Kat Zingano at the end of the year, because I hope Kat Zingano comes back. I still want to see Kat and Ronda. That's what I want. But hey, before we get to the main event, Jim, Jake from our great sponsors at Fight Chicks. Beyond the Cage, presented by Fight Chicks. Remember them? Remember that? Yeah. If anybody is going to be in Vegas, they are unable to make it out to Vegas this year for the Expo, but they're teaming up with the Las Vegas Fight Shop, and this is awesome, Jim. You can win $200 in Fight Chicks gear. If you go to the Fight Shop in Vegas, get a Fight Chick item, like the shirt that you've got, that I've got, take a picture there or with your favorite fighter, post it on Twitter and hashtag FightChicks. You have a chance to win a $200 gift, $200 worth of gear from Fight Chicks. So, go get your favorite Rousey or Tate or Zingano shirt if you're going to be out there and get a chance to win. How about that?
Yeah, definitely a great deal that our great people at Fight Chicks are putting out there. So definitely enter that contest for a chance to win some free gear. So
I asked if I could enter, and they didn't respond.
I would just enter and then worry about it later. And then if they go, oh, your entry don't count, you'd be like, well, at least I tried. You know what I mean? Just try to slip it in there and see if it goes unnoticed. Maybe put it under your wife's name. Maybe they won't notice.
Yeah, when I come to pick up the gift card.
No, I don't know. Yeah, at least do it so that way people see you doing the contest. That way
That's
you
true.
can promote it. So.
That's true.
All right, well, let's get to that main event of UFC 175. Lyoto Machida against Chris Weidman for the UFC Middleweight Championship. Looking at the challenger, Lyoto Machida, 13-4 in the UFC, 2-0 at middleweight since dropping down from 205 pounds. His last fight was a victory over Gegard Mousasi at Fight Night 36, and 11 of his 21 career victories are by decision. Looking at Weidman, 7-0 in the UFC, undefeated in his career. Last fight, he defeated Anderson Silva once again at UFC 168, and 5 of his 11 career victories are by knockout. Dave, we have a very interesting fight here for the main event. We have, the wrestling stylings of Chris Weidman against the karate stylings of Lyoto Machida. And for Chris Weidman, we know you can't go rushing in against Machida. He will counter you with something and can knock you out. That's apparent with either his hands or his kicks. He can do that. For Weidman, I think he has to try to get this thing into the clinch, tie Machida up. I don't think he can win this fight at range on the feet. I just don't think he can outstride against Lyoto Machida. Machida has baffled many a foe with his stand-up, and I don't think trying to go there on the feet is the best strategy. You got to try to tie him up. And if you can take him down, Machida is a very hard guy to take down. Now, he was hard to take down at 205, Dave, and he wasn't cutting any weight. He's going to be a lot bigger guy at middleweight, so you would think he's even going to be harder to take down at 185 pounds. That's not to say Weidman can't do it, but it's going to be tough. He's very tough. And then if you do get it to the ground, Lyoto Machida is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt and has some pretty good submissions. So it is a very interesting scenario, and the difference, I think, is the fact if Weidman gets it down, he can land damage, and we know he can go for a very long time. And he has to keep up a pretty big pace. He has to keep some pressure if he can get into the clinch and on top, because he can't sit back against Machida. He can't be lackadaisical. He can't wait for the fight to come to him or anything like that. He has to go out there and kind of try to take it. And especially, like I said, when he gets in the clinch on top. Now, he can't be aggressive on the feet because, like I said, you'll get countered. But he has to pick his spots, when to explode, and try to beat Machida that way. Because, like I said, I don't think you just really want to be on the feet with him for 25 minutes. He's too dangerous, and his movements and stuff is very hard to counter because you can't really bring in somebody like Lyoto Machida to counter on the strikings. You just can't. He's just a hard guy to game plan for.
A couple of things. One, to your last point there. Ray Longo was on with Ariel Helwani, and he said they brought in your guy, Stephen the Wonderboy Thompson, and he's a very good mimicker of Lyoto Machida. Both kind of have that karate style, and he said that he's very good at doing it. Obviously, that's not Lyoto Machida, so it's going to be hard to do. Second thing was I've heard a lot of technical breakdowns of this fight. I don't think if Chris Weidman didn't go crazy with Anderson Silva bouncing all around and doing all that stuff, he's not going to rush in and do anything crazy against Lyoto Machida. It's as simple as that. I saw in the what do they call those shows, Jim? The lead-ups?
The countdowns?
Yeah.
Shows?
They're working a lot on making it uncomfortable for Weidman when he attempts to when Weidman attempts to take Machida down, and I didn't see there being a whole lot of problems with Weidman taking Anderson down in either of the fights.
But Anderson's never had great takedown defense. I think that's a difference.
I mean, he hasn't, but the times that he's been taken down, Chael's a pretty good wrestler. Weidman's a pretty good wrestler, and they both made it look super easy. I just have a feeling it's a lot like any of the martial arts, Jim. If Weidman has been wrestling since he was 5 years old, that's not gonna change. Like, that's 20 years of doing drills. You know what I'm saying? Like, you don't just get worse at that. Like, he's continually getting better. It's almost like second nature. It's like me snapping and, flipping this pen and, I do whatever I want. But I'm saying, I think it's not going to be an easy fight, but I think that the takedowns are going to be easy for Weidman, and I think that standing, that we've seen that Weidman's got that one punch knockout power. We know Machida's got it, but I don't think Machida does well against Weidman unless Weidman makes a mistake and starts to rush in. I really think it's that simple.
Well, with that said, Dave, let's do some picks.
This is going to take a long time, isn't it? We have a
No,
lot
let's
of
not
picks.
worry about queuing up the Pride music.
Oh, all right.
All right. As we said, check out our full picks for the Ultimate Fighter 19 finale on our Facebook page, facebook.com/Beyond the Cage podcast, later tonight, because we wanted to keep it live on Wednesday for all the viewers there. So stay tuned for our picks of that. But we can do one just for that. I'm going with Frankie Edgar in the main event against BJ Penn, the two coaches. I think that's pretty obvious. What about you, Dave?
My heart and my brain go with Frankie Edgar, but my $10 is going to go on BJ Penn.
So you're picking the upset?
No, I'm picking Frankie.
Oh, okay. All right. But you're going to bet. Okay. I didn't want to have anyone confused like you were picking that, so.
Hey, Jim, one quick sec before we go to 175. Shout out, just got a message from another sponsor, from Ryan at MMAforlife.ca. He's watching the show, so thanks a lot for tuning in, Ryan. Appreciate it.
All right. Yeah.
All right, let's go.
All right, let's get the picks here. First fight of the night, bantamweight division, Russell Doan against Marcus Brimage. I don't know. This is a tough fight to pick. You know, I'm gonna go with Brimage because I know more about him, and that's really about it. And I hope he's more exciting this time around. So I'm gonna go with Marcus Brimage.
I'm going with Marcus Brimage because he's exciting and he's going to get a TKO victory to lead off the pay-per-view card. First round TKO, Marcus Brimage, 1-0 at 135 pounds.
All right, the next fight of the evening in the middleweight division, as Uriah Hall takes on Thiago Santos. You know, I don't know about Santos or Mariotto, whatever you want to call this guy, but he may be in for a rude awakening against Uriah Hall. So I'm going to go with Uriah Hall.
Yeah, I'm going to go with Uriah Hall.
All right,
not as exciting as Marcus Brimage, but I'm going to go with Uriah Hall.
All right. The next fight of the evening is at heavyweight, Stefan Struve against Matt Mitrione. I think this is going to be a fun fight. I think it's fun. I don't know if they don't do fight of the night or performance of the night, but I think this fight has a chance to get a bonus for somebody or both of them. But even with the layoff, I'm going to go with Stefan Struve. I'm going to take the Flying Dutchman here to win.
I'm going to take him via triangle. Stefan Struve.
Did you really think for that one? Got the headband
on? We've been doing this for like an hour and a half.
Co-main event of the evening, Ronda Rousey against Alexis Davis. Like you said, he gave a shout to Ryan from MMAforlife.ca. Unfortunately, his countrywoman, Alexis Davis, I think is going to fall short in this one, so I'm going to go with Ronda Rousey.
Yep. Ronda Rousey, I think, walks away with the victory. And the most epic thing ever in life would be if then Kat Zingano walks in to the cage and lays down the gauntlet. That'd be great.
Gives her a Stone Cold Stunner and walks out, and they go, "Oh, Stone Cold!" And then smashes beer. So that's usually how they would do it, right? In wrestling, they had like the other person would come in the ring, like, "Oh, I'm gonna beat you," and then a Stunner would. Anyways.
But right, they won't throw Budweisers. What are those energy drinks that they always get? And it's like the empty
NOS
can.
Energy?
They're like
the NOS energy drinks.
Yeah.
We're going off on a tangent here. Main event, Weidman Machida middleweight championship. I've been really looking forward to this fight. I mean, I did my best to try to break it down stylistically and give my best game plan. I hope I did this fight justice. I think it's going to be excellent. So many different areas both guys can win, but I got a feeling, Dave. I'm going to go with Lyoto Machida to become the third ever man to win a title in 2 different weight classes. That's who I'm going to go with in this one.
Here it comes, folks. The only man to beat Anderson Silva not once, but twice is going to win this fight.
Rao
And
Chonen's fighting? I'm kidding. I'm kidding. Rao Chonen beat him once. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Dave.
good one, Jim. Good one. No, I think Chris Weidman. I think this is a very tough fight for Chris Weidman. I think every fight from this day forward is going to be a tough one for Chris Weidman, but I think he's able to hold on to the belt, and you can take that one to the bank, baby.
You can take that one to the blood bank, Senator Trent.
So,
for those of you who don't know, there's a great quote with Steven Seagal as one of these, like, you take that to the bank, to the blood bank, boom, and then he like shoots a gun off at this guy. It's like the Senator Trent guy. Anyways, it's a great soundbite. All right, Dave, great stuff today as always. I got to thank our sites out there: Vigilante MMA, MMAinsider.net, MMAforlife.ca, Bluegrass MMA, our friends at Top Rated MMA, and of course our great friend AJ running the memorabilia stuff with MMA Signatures USA.com, and of course our presenting sponsor of Fight Chicks. So thanks to everybody who supports Beyond the Cage each and every week. And Dave Sadler, he's going to have fun out there in Vegas, so definitely stay tuned to his Twitter page at Vigilante Juice, posting those twit pics with all the fighters he'll be rubbing elbows with out there. And for me, just my thoughts on the fight at Jim Gramm. So for the man over there, Dave Sadler.
I'm leaving on a jet plane. Can't wait. Yeah, follow everything. I'll be posting pictures. I get to hang out with Phil Baroni this weekend. How cool is that?
He's the best ever.
I hope he tells me that when I see him. Hey, I'm the best ever.
Just get him to say that. We're just gonna play it on the show nonstop. Ever, ever, ever. It'll be like a repeat. All right. So yeah, he's Dave Sadler.
That's
I'm
me.
Graham. Thanks for listening, or in this case, watching another episode of Beyond the Cage. It'll be available on YouTube directly after on my personal and Beyond the Cage channel. And, of course, I'm going to put up the audio version if you want to listen to it that way. So thanks, everybody, for watching. Listen this week, and we'll be back next week. So see ya.
Later.